I'll call the meeting of the Ramsey County Commission to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes. Have any revisions, corrections, or can we entertain a motion to approve those?
Second.
The motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Approval of the final bills for 2021.
And there should be an additional list on your desk.
Some on that list for the highway department will have motions later.
Candy, is this a subtotal under this total here? Are these two separate amounts, this plus the 38, or is it? Next week, that's this total. Is this a subtotal under this one?
Must be.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, here's mine. Yep.
Yeah,
And there should be-
general fund and every other fund, right?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Volk,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Frith,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye. Move on to approval of agenda. Do we have any revisions or corrections to make to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add discussion on the Highway 2 expansion, public comment, the J-turn discussion
Under new business?
under new business, please.
Okay, do we have a second for that? Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to add this independent contract agreement.
Discussion on that?
Yes.
Okay, are you willing to amend your motion there, Jeff, to include that? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chairman, one more.
Oh,
I have to fill out some paperwork for the opioid.
I have it on the agenda.
Oh, it's already on there?
Yep.
Never mind.
Yep, got it covered.
You said 6, it'll be 7.
But when we're done,
Yeah.
I'll finish the curl at 6:45, so we gotta get rolling.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well, in that case,
6:05.
Sean, you've got about 40 seconds. Go.
Just a couple things with the Joint Training Center. Positive is that I've already talked to Otter Tail. They're going to take that substation to the north of that building, and they're going to get rid of it. So I put ourselves on the name for that land just north of the training center. So I told them to leave the fence because we could use the fence too. But this is going to be about 5 years from now. So just a little expansion. I would like your guys' permission to look into getting some grants and to look at Bank of North Dakota, USDA, anyone that does 0% financing for a project like this. Trying to get first responders on their days off to volunteer to all to come together. It's taken a long time for us to build, so I'd like to at least get some prices and some options for you guys to look into, just getting that project done. Otherwise, it's going to take forever, and it's not doing us any good just sitting there gutted out. So I'd just like to look at some of the stuff and see if I can bring it to you guys at a later date.
Absolutely.
Okay. As far as the ambulance service, some good news. Our little mini ambulance, I was able to raise $11,000 in private funds for that. I'll chew, I hate to say this, but kind of pimping myself out. And I'll chew healthcare services said as long as they are the only healthcare provider listed on mini ambulance. On the side, the little letters next door says thanks to Ramsey County and its citizens. If we put their name up, they would match up to $35,000. So we had discussed it before about raising financing for that. So it's something I'd like to pursue with the possibility getting a final price and see if the county would get what is ever left. But Ultra will do up to $35,000 plus I have $11,000 of the $75,000 project.
Oh, good job. You raised a lot of that already.
Yep, so, disabled vets vehicle, and going on the opposite side, I know Sanford wants to build here too, so I might ask Sanford to put in some money for the disabled vet van on the other side. I don't mind being a billboard, it saves people money and it's needed for the community, so. But that's all I have for updates, and just real quick things, just wanted to make sure I had approval for me before I started any projects.
Absolutely, however we can help, I think we're all in favor of helping you guys do the services that you need to do for the community. We appreciate it.
Wonderful, have a happy holidays, you guys have any questions?
No, same to you.
Okay.
Happy holidays, thanks, Sean. Short and sweet.
Almost 40 seconds.
Star and Ron.
I tend to get a little bit more long-winded.
That's all right, I won't hold it against you.
Star and I have been going around to the different commissions to approach everybody regarding the computer-aided dispatch system that we would like to get for the 911 center. We started probably close to 2 months ago now, in going around to all the counties to talk to all the emergency managers and the responder agencies to garner support and to get some feedback as far as how we could potentially pay for the CAD system. And essentially, I think what we came up with is that we don't really want to change or deviate from how we've handled some of the projects under the law enforcement center already. And so we basically developed a cost share formula on how to approach it. And I think that that's kind of what everyone was in favor of. So we do have some information in front of you, some numbers that we do have, that we put together. We would run it basically like we do with the cost share for the law enforcement center. We're taking the calls for service that we get for all the agencies within our region, putting them into, dividing them into counties, into the county that they're within, and then breaking that number out amongst the counties. One of the things for me as we go through this process is every county is different. You know, like we look at Eddy County, who has 4 agencies, to where you get to Nelson County where they have 12 to 14 different agencies. So each county is going to handle things a little bit differently. In Eddy County too, 90% of their calls is going to be just for the sheriff's office. So the remaining 10% of their portion, you know, does the county want to actually go up to their volunteer services to get that money, or are they just going to contribute that? And that's what I expect that Eddy County is going to do, is just cover the full share for them. Ramsey County is very different with the makeup that you guys have within Ramsey County, specific to the city agencies and Lake Region Ambulance and the call volume that we have from those agencies. And I've had conversations with Sean, and I know that they're comfortable with their portion, but I don't want to also have to be the one that's trying to go out to the different agencies to bill and figure that stuff out either. So with the CAD, we've been working on this for probably a year, a little bit better than a year with Motorola, and we've also looked at Central Square, so we've demoed a few different options. Motorola's Spillman Flex is the one that we would like to move forward with. We do have a quote that is good through the end of this year. We have requested a new quote from them, and in the discussions we have had, that if we are able to show that we're looking to still move forward, that they would honor, we're asking them to extend their existing quote into next year, and if they would honor it. Right now, the quote for the new CAD system is $180,000. That will include all of the hardware at the law enforcement center for the dispatch center. It also includes all software and license accesses for all responders and responder agencies. What it does not cover is the hardware that maybe would be needed in rigs or in squad cars if they want to utilize the full benefits of a CAD system. I'm not going to get too much into what a CAD can do. We currently don't have a fully functioning CAD within the dispatch center. And those who are familiar with having worked with one previously in other locations are pretty adamant about how beneficial it would be for us. We're talking about making things a lot more efficient, not only for our dispatchers, but for the first responders. You know, we're talking about having GPS locating, you know, tracking on the rigs and on the squad cars. So if they're going to a call, our dispatchers will see if they're heading the wrong direction, or if they missed a turn, or if there's a pursuit going on, to be able to get coordinate with other units to get them in front of the pursuit.
Are those added costs on what you're just discussing? Because that's kind of what it sounded to me like you said, is that the 180,000 is for the internal, like in the building, and then it'd be additional costs for outfitting squad cars.
For extra, yeah, for the hardware that would be needed for the squad cars. Now, I think most of them are already using tough books and stuff, so they probably already have the hardware that they would need. So there may not be additional expense for some of those departments. There are some though that probably don't have anything and would need to invest in some hardware if they wanted to take full advantage of the CAD system. So yeah, it does include all the licenses and accesses to the software, just doesn't include the peripheral hardware stuff for outside the dispatch center. Yeah, it's one of the things that we've gone through too that we identified here recently in another project. We're working on trying to get the Guardian RFID system for the jail, and we ran into a hiccup where it doesn't integrate seamlessly with P1, which is our records management system. We use that within the jail. All of the counties and law enforcement agencies in our 4-county area also use it for their law enforcement records management system. So that brought a concern to me as far as the integration of the CAD to our records management system. When we first talked to our original representative from Motorola, he'd indicated there won't be any issues with it with them connecting it. There won't be any additional cost to that. We did follow up and have another conversation with the state specific to the CAD earlier this month, and they were saying that there shouldn't be any issues. It sounds like Barnes County already is using the Spillman Flex CAD and coordinating with the state P1 system. We are still going to meet with Motorola on the 5th. We have a meeting with Phil from Motorola, because I want it in writing. To make sure that we aren't going to have any unexpected costs to get it to integrate. Because with the Guardian system that I was looking at, I just got the number from Motorola today. It's going to be an additional $40,000 to get Motorola to be able to integrate with the Guardian system we're looking at, which is the Guardian system was going to run me $30,000. So I'm going to add another 40 just to get it to connect to my records management system. So I don't know that that's going to happen. So, but we've been able to work through some of those issues, and I'm not as concerned about it now as I was before. Really, the only other thing that I have before I'll open it up and give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions is, like I had indicated, I'm going around to the different counties. We had requested to be on the agenda for the city. It got punted. We're actually going to be on the agenda now for January 3rd. I think that the city would like to go back to have it to where they're separated out from the county. But again, I don't know, how everyone wants to do this, and we're just trying to. This is the best idea that we could come up with. We're open to other suggestions and ideas on how to cover the expenses.
The 180 is billed for the city and the county?
180 is total project. So the county, Ramsey counties is about 112 of that. That would be Ramsey counties. And that includes the city. And then we did break it down so that you can see within the county how that would break down by agency based upon the call usage. So like this, the PD is 6,300, Ramsey County Sheriff's Office is 2,100, Lake Region Ambulance, oh no, hang on, I'm looking at the annual, I apologize for that. So yeah, the Devils Lake Police Department is 71,566, Ramsey County Sheriff's Office is just short of 24,000, and Lake Region Ambulance is just over 14,000 for the initial cost.
So we're looking at using the past numbers, not the tracking for 2021.
So 2021 then would be what we would look at going to, and that may be, this is just what I have for data now.
Okay.
Because it's a 14-month rollout period from when we actually sign on before it'll actually be implemented. So we're looking at 2023 before.
So this is a ballpark figure that we're looking at.
Right.
So it's probably gonna be in that range for the whole county. It's just a matter of the split between the county and the city.
Right.
And then how we decide we would like to do it essentially.
Right, yeah. Because then, yeah, in 2023, I would drop off 18 and add 21.
How many years are we paying this over?
So the system is guaranteed for, it's a 10-year contract that we would have to enter into to utilize the system. And then they do indicate that there will be no end of life to it.
Okay. So that 180,000 is for the 10-year lifespan?
So it's 180,000 for the purchase of the software,
Purchase.
then there's 16,000 annually thereafter.
Okay. I must have missed that.
For the whole CAD system? 16?
16,000, yeah.
So we'd be talking X amount up front, and then the annual cost would be, $99.50
Yeah.
basically between, and then we would use that on a split then going forward and use the 3 years and drop the back year off and then add the front.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense to me then. The other question I would have is, you've talked to all the other counties at this point,
Yes,
what has their indication been? They're all fine with it?
positive.
Are they going to cover their outside ambulance services and all that? They're not gonna ask them and bill them separately, or?
I know Eddy County, and I know Eddy County for sure is covering the full expense. Nelson County, I would expect they're gonna do the same with Benson County. The one thing that we have in here that we haven't had a chance to go over yet is to get out to Spirit Lake. Because we broke Spirit Lake out separately. And when we did go up to Benson County to talk to a responder, we had good representation there, and we had a really good discussion with them. But we would have to go out and convince the tribal council that that's worth the investment for them.
That $16,000 annually, is that locked in for the 10 years then, or how does that work?
That's, yeah, it will be locked in. And that's the number that we were provided with the quote.
But I assume we're also locked into it for 10 years, so like if for whatever reason that system was not working out for us and we had to switch, I assume you had to buy out the contract for the remaining years of value, right?
Right.
Can I add something? He talked about law enforcement, but we're very much for this project for ambulance and fire because it works on our system too. So not only does it work for the PD system, but the system that we use for.
So do you have the hardware in your ambulances to connect to this?
The hardware that the ambulance and fire need is not as much as the police department, and it's iPads is all we need, but I bought tough books anyways.
So the answer is, yeah, you can.
Yes,
have
we
this.
will.
This would be immediately something that would provide you benefit.
Yes, for most of the larger services, we're already set.
I guess, I'm sure you probably said it, but maybe I missed it because I was reading all the numbers on the page. But what's the benefit of the computer aided dispatch over the dispatch currently we have? I'm sure there's a lot of benefits, but just.
So if you come into our dispatch center now and you go into dispatch and you look at their monitors that they have up, you'll see that, and I couldn't tell you how many different windows they have up on the monitors for different programs that they need to access at any given time.
There's a lot, I know that much because I've been there before.
So when they have a traffic stop, and Star could probably give you a better example, having worked at the dispatch center, but they're having to put their information into what we're currently using for a CAD, which is just basically tracking who's available, who isn't available, of the officers. Then they're having to go and plug their name into NCIC to run a warrant check. They're having to go to different places to run all the things and enter all that information redundantly. A CAD is going to streamline that.
So this seamlessly streamlines it all and then it makes it quicker for response time and everything else.
Right. And then even when dispatch is taking in information as they're on the call, if they have a tough book in their squad car, that information will come right across their screen as it's being typed in.
So that's where the efficiency comes in.
Yeah,
Right,
that's nice.
right. Yeah. And then the individuals out on the scene can enter their own information as well and add it to those call sheets and
So then that's shared with everyone else.
right.
Nice. Well, I guess in my opinion, it sounds like a no-brainer.
We do have another high-end demo of it scheduled for January 11th. So for anyone that it is remote, so it'll be on the computers, basically there'll be a webinar on it. If you want to log in to get just a high overview of what it'll do, not only for the dispatch center, but for the responding agencies, the volunteer agencies, we'll have that. It'll be January 11th from 11 to 12:30. And so I'll make sure that I share the link with Candy and she can get that out to anyone who wants to jump on. We'll probably be hosting a viewing at the law enforcement center in the courtroom because I do believe that the Motorola rep is going to try and be on site for that as well. So at this point, my goal is to hopefully bring it back to the law enforcement center board in our January board meeting to potentially give approval for us to move forward and start the process with getting the CAD.
Well, keep us appraised.
Okay.
Anything else?
Unless you have any other questions or anything of me.
Did you need a commitment from the county tonight to move forward?
I'm just bringing it back to
Bring it
the
back
board.
to the-
Because then more likely if the board agrees and moves forward with it, then we'll probably do the same like we did with Siren and develop a contract and get everyone into it that way.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Be a great addition.
All right?
No stars, looking forward to it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate
You
your
guys have a
time.
Merry Christmas.
You too.
Merry Christmas.
Kevin?
Okay, to start off, we got the plow truck that we ordered that still isn't here, but we did get the invoice for the snow equipment and labor to install that equipment. And I guess I told them I agreed to pay for 75% of labor, so that invoice to get it on this year's budget is gonna be $54,391.
This is for labor on a plow we don't have, is that right?
Just so I get it on this year's budget. I get what you're saying.
I didn't say anything, I just making sure I
It's
understood.
kinda like buying a combine in October and it doesn't show up till the next March.
You want a motion for that separate?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve payment of the labor invoice for our snowplow that we hope to see at some point. Or,
Labor and the snow equipment.
oh, and the equipment, sorry, for both.
The 54,391,
Right, correct.
75% of it.
That's 100% of the snow equipment and 75% of the labor.
Right.
Does that make sense?
What Kevin said.
Excellent. Okay, we need a roll call for that, is that just a simple?
We're paying it, correct?
Yes, we're paying it.
Payment,
Alright,
yeah.
so I guess it's a roll call.
Yeah. Lightfon.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Brown.
Right?
Brett.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye.
I guess just to expand on that, my reasoning for the 75% of the labor is the labor's kind of a guess anyway. It could have went long on their estimate, it could have went short on their estimate, that's why I don't want to overpay on.
Retain some and finish next year.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on. We got the invoice for the cutting edges from Butler. And that whole semi-load, they were $34,491.60. Motion to pay for those.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay for our semi-load of cutting edges. Roll call again, please.
Brown.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye.
And the last thing I have, Clemens who got the new heater installed in our sign shed / motor grader building, and that cost was $2,525 even.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay Clemens Roots $2,525 for a heater. Roll call one last time.
Volk.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Paul, do you have anything?
A couple things, I guess. I want to say thanks for all the work this year. I really appreciate you work on overlay it with Camden and Fox Culvert up ahead, more there on 24. We got the PSC plans are in for paving project that will have a March opening, and then the bridge, the county has, or the state has it on May opening currently, but hoping to get that pushed up once we get the PSC plans in for that. And then the other thing was, I guess, I sent an email to Kevin earlier too, but I know you guys are working on ARPA funds, get a committee set up for that. There's some legislation in the House of Representatives. It already went through the Senate. It's the State, Local, Tribal, and Territorial Fiscal Recovery Infrastructure and Disaster Relief Flexibility Act. So it's Senate Bill 3011 and House Bill 5735. It's got 138 co-sponsors out of the 435 representatives, so about 32%. Or it hasn't come to a vote yet, but it looks like it would pass. And then it also has a provision in there about allowing the funds to use as non-federal match on projects too, and allows it to be able to use for highways and bridges and that sort of thing. So if that passes, that would change your options considerably for what you can do with the ARPA funds.
Yeah, we'd love some clarification, so
Yeah,
anything that the federal government will give us, we'll appreciate.
yeah, I hope that passes. It's been sitting at the House since October 26th, but you're not
Hasn't
that
gone
way.
anywhere.
Well, people are still signing on to it though. There was 4 more that signed for yesterday, I think. So actually about the third one.
Well, I hope the speaker brings it to the floor then.
It's got both Democrats and Republicans supporting it.
Sure. But when I worked in Washington, that's something that happens, you know, you can have a bipartisan supported bill, and if they don't want it to come to a vote, it don't ever have to come to a vote.
We can send it to committee and hold it hostage and try to get something else passed and then use it as leverage basically.
Okay.
Hopefully they don't.
Yeah, hopefully they don't. I don't mean to sound doom and gloom about it, but that does happen. You know, just things disappear into nooks and crannies, never to be seen again, no matter how popular they are.
Oh, all right. Well, hopefully it passes. That's all I had.
That's all I have too.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to both of you.
You too. Merry Christmas, and then we'll get to wrestling practice. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, we'll move on to new business, 2022 election precincts.
Same as they do for a long time, right?
Sad time of year.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
There's a motion and a second to approve the 2022 precincts. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Go on to board appointments. Is this one here, Cameron?
Oh, no, that's your minutes. Those are the other two that we received.
And this is for.
So I haven't gotten anything from those two.
You got nothing from the planning commission? You're not interested, you don't know if they're interested or not?
You sent out the same forms we always
Yep.
do that say we'd like to be reappointed and you haven't gotten anything back. Okay.
So I think with that one, we like need to just pick up the phone
Call.
Well, either
and touch base instead of, you know,
Well, yeah, so that's,
something got lost in the shuffle.
that or maybe they're just not interested,
Right.
and then we'll know we need to go out and advertise, but I
Yep.
would hate to advertise if we don't have to.
Yep.
I'll make, we had just the two that were for the water board, correct?
Correct.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Brian Volk and John Brown to the water board. I just want to handle them separately.
you wanna make a motion for both of them?
Yeah, just to appoint those two, and then we'll handle each set of boards separately.
Do we have a second on that? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of appointing Mr. Volk and Mr. Brown to the Ramsey County Water Resource District Board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Would we
The other
like
one
to
on the next agenda.
make a motion to table
I'll
that?
make a motion to table the appointments to the Ramsey County Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Are those appointments advertised at all in papers or,
We do this letter first,
yeah,
and then if we don't,
but it's not opened up to,
unless we get a response back saying that they don't want to be on that position any longer.
I think your council will call and be in order.
Let's just
Yeah.
make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks, and then if the next, we'll know by the next meeting, sure, whether or not they're interested, and
Yeah.
if we need to advertise, we'll advertise.
well, I'm thinking for any board that has a board appointment open, I don't think that it should be automatically, you know, to the person that's there. It should be opened up to citizens at large if they're interested. That's all I'm indicating, in case there's other people that would be interested in serving. Not that they're beating down any doors to.
No, but
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it would be beneficial. I don't wanna see us spend a ton of money advertising, but
No.
something as simple as putting it on our Facebook page or putting it on the website, just ahead of time, a few months, just so people have a heads up that, you know, we're soliciting interest for positions, I think is worthwhile.
You know, we-
And you
we-
got it out there.
Yeah, I mean,
See if they're interested. I
and then
guess.
still see if the people that have sat there are still interested, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt to have more people interested, I guess.
Because we've
A lot of times-
advertised in the past and we've gotten,
Nothing right now.
Yeah, and that's my concern. I don't wanna spend thousands and thousands of dollars advertising when we have two people or whatever the amount is that are already interested, but I still think it's beneficial to probably get the word out there, just so if anybody doesn't even know that we have a planning board, maybe they would be interested.
Moving forward, we'll do that the same time we send out the letter, then we'll just put something on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of,
That's fine.
that'd be a good idea.
I mean, we've had openings since I've been on the commission,
Yeah.
and we couldn't get anybody.
Did a big,
Let's not go back to that.
No, most of the time, if we could find somebody that's interested, it's
I
alright,
think we
we'll
need to,
keep you around.
these two individuals, they need to have a chat for a phone call
Oh, yeah,
and see where that goes. If they say no, then I guess we know what to do.
How long ago did you send the letters, just out of curiosity in that situation? It was November 1st, wasn't it, on the water board one, so?
yeah, it would have been all the same,
Okay, well,
because they all expired at the same time, so.
well, I'm good at setting letters on my desk and forgetting them.
Yeah, yeah, well,
It's quite possible.
yeah. We'll do a follow-up and all.
I'll do.
Okay, anything else on this topic? Hearing none, we'll move on to approving letters of transfer.
You want one at a time?
You can do that together if you'd like.
You know, I'd make a motion to approve the letters of transfer.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve letters of transfer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carried. Approve raffle permit.
So moved.
Yeah.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Alright,
Pose same sign. Motion carried. Homestead credits.
move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion is carried. Approve beer licenses.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve beer licenses.
Everything good there, Candy?
Nothing changed over last year, right?
We're minus one.
-1, the one that we expected to be
Yep.
-1 on.
Yep.
I enjoy the fact that we only charge $50, but we only charge campcrafters $1, so they get a $49 break.
Is there a,
I know, because they're not profit.
They gotta buy coffee and something.
I just like that, it's not like we're spending $100,000 here, we're giving them a break.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the beer licenses signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. State's Attorney National Opioid Forms. Oh,
All right, I did as told and registered us for the opioid updates. We got a request to participate in settlement agreements with Johnson & Johnson and a lot of their subsidiaries. And then there's a second one for distributors that we got a request from. What I'm asking for tonight is that I can be an authorized signatory on behalf of the county to sign these forms. They should be included in your packets. As far as I understand it, the deadline for us to sign on is January 2nd, 2022. That's not necessarily the date to reach a settlement, that's the date for us to make the vote. So I believe we can back out if we decide it's not for us, but that's what I'm asking for tonight.
What's your suggestion? Stay in?
I think we should see what they have to say.
I'll make a motion.
Or that we're authorizing State's Attorney Cummings to be the signatory for the county. Correct?
Yep, just for these two.
And by signing, we're just saying that we want to be a party to the class action lawsuit settlement if there's a settlement, but we have the option at the point of seeing the settlement to back out.
I believe that's how it reads.
Did you second, Jeff?
I made the motion.
Oh, you made the motion.
we still need a second.
Second. I wasn't sure what was going on.
We'll wait for a second for Candy so she doesn't get all the way behind.
Good
Um,
idea.
Some copies or something.
But while we're sitting here now that we're back in proper order with the motion in a second, does this mean that theoretically you would have the power then to sign the county on to whatever settlement was presented? As the signatory, you could have that power, is that right?
Nope, I want a limited power to sign these 2 pieces of paper. That's all I want to do. I want to make the vote by January 2nd. Any final call is your guys' decision. I can't do that unless expressly given power to do that. And I don't think that's proper. I think the county commissioners should decide that.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
And as these things come up, I'll make sure to keep bringing them here. You'll get tired of me eventually.
Never. Oh, here's what we'll do. I'm just gonna write this down. So Jeff made the motion, Adam seconded.
You're gonna screw up Candy's system over here.
That's all right, she can blame me. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve allowing the state's attorney to sign the national opioid forms. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Wrote it down for you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to listen.
Okay, well then we will move on, if there's nothing else, Paul.
That's all I've got.
Thank you for doing that for us. We'll move on to discussion on the community meeting that was held about the Highway 2 expansion project and the things that they're planning. And Jeff, if you'd like to lead us on that.
Yeah, it was held at High Plains Equipment here about a week or so ago. And you got an update from, we had an update from the Department of Transportation along with the contractor that they have invested in that, and talked about the project going along Highway 2 west or east of town up to the Hefty Rest area. And one of the big concerns is how they're planning on reducing the number of impact crashes by implementing J-turns. J-turn is, you come out, you can't go straight across the highway. They want to reduce or eliminate those T-bone high-speed impacts of a T-bone crash. So they want you to take a left turn if you're heading south, and then cross the highway, and then do a loop around and coming back to the east, and then head south again. So a lot of issues with that scenario. One would be probably the first in the state on a major highway such as ours. Two, a lot of people indicated there would be problems with snow access. You know, if there's a heavy snowfall, priority number one for road department is opening the road. Secondary would, after the fact, would be cleaning out those turn lanes. And if you have to go down and then turn with a large trailer, large equipment, that may be a problem if there's a lot of snow on those, in those medians and those turn lanes. So I think that as a commission, a stronger message would be sent as a commission instead of each one of us individually. And I'm no writer or poet, but I thought what Brian Swenseth sent us all in his concerns as a property owner, as a business owner, as a homeowner along that stretch of highway made a lot of sense. He pointed out a lot of the flaws that we talked about, but he also talked about the ever-growing implement. You know, farm equipment isn't getting any smaller, and some of the implements that he pointed out in his in his submission to the DOT and civil engineering was some really big equipment taking up multiple lanes of highway. If you're turning on these J turns, probably not the best for something that could be, you know.
Well, you're gonna end up with a tractor trailer jackknife because somebody was trying to make the turn back onto the highway going the other direction and couldn't clear it.
Yeah. So, you know, that and the J turns would create you know, for somebody that just wants to go across the highway, it creates a time difference, going down and then back, and when all you want to do is cross the highway. I think one of the big things to help alleviate some of the devastating impacts that occur along that would be maybe reducing the speed. I mentioned acceleration lanes. As you turn, make a wider lane so a vehicle would either have time to emerge if you're coming up upon it from rear end, or give that vehicle that's turning out onto the highway an opportunity to accelerate as it's moving down the road. A lot of discussion comes around frontage roads. I'm not sure if, and obviously I think if done right, that eastern side of Devil's Lake could be a really a boom for that area of our community. If you provide safety and access points and easy in and out.
I guess from my perspective, I mostly agree with you. I think that there's probably not a good workable solution without inclusion of frontage roads. You know, and the fact that they're totally punting on that and going to turn almost every single one of these intersections into a J-turn, it does not seem appropriate to me. I think it would be okay to have a couple of J-turns in places that it's primarily residential traffic coming out, but in a lot of these intersections where it's farm implements and things coming off, it's never going to work. But you know, like, so the ones that are directly like across from Ackerman Acres, for example, that might not be the end of the world to have 1 or 2 J-turns on that corridor. But I just don't see how this is a workable or good solution. I think, for one, it could end up being very obnoxious to everyone that has to work with it day in, day out. But 2, I don't think it solves the problem that you want it to solve. You know, and we need to find some kind of a solution that, I mean, ultimately is going to include frontage roads. And I know we don't have the money sitting around to do that. And I was very disappointed that the state doesn't seem to have any plan to help us with that.
The frontage road, they're not doing anything like from the East Annex east on both sides of the highway there?
They're not doing anything.
I was there and I left.
I think that,
Went to my granddaughter's Christmas party.
I think the thought process was on the north side of the road, they would like to put one in there, but it didn't sound to me as though they had any kind of plan other than to say, hey, you should put one in.
You?
Yes,
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
yes.
There wasn't any, hey, here's a
That
portion
was
of the
actually
project.
said? Yeah.
Well, I don't know
More or
if
less. I mean, we were both sitting next to
Implied?
each other, and that's
I
what
think it was
said to Adam.
implied. I don't know if it was outright said, but essentially I remember something to the effect of it saying that local or frontage roads would tend to be a local responsibility or
Right, and
something
then
to that
they said
nature.
we look forward to working with
Our
local
local
partners
partners.
on.
So you know what that means.
Yeah, so I
It means
said
the
that.
townships don't have any money, which means they gotta come to us.
Right, and, I mean.
Which I don't mind footing a partial cost if there's a, frontage road next to,
But this
that might
would
make
be
some
a
sense.
major expansion of
Yeah,
frontage
but
roads.
I mean-
That would be huge.
I mean, we're talking millions and millions of dollars probably
Right.
for frontage roads along that whole
Well,
run.
both sides of the highway need it.
Depending on where you are, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
in that area, east.
So,
that's for
You know,
sure.
going towards the casino, how did they do those frontage roads years ago? How did they get that put in?
Well, how did they end up paved is a better question in my mind.
Well, by my house, they're state owned, on the city limits, which is, before you get there, it's the city owned.
So was that state policy back then?
Oh, yeah, whatever that was, yes.
So that's why they still clean them and stuff, right?
Right.
Yep. That
In
was,
fact, the city-owned ones at one time, the state-owned also. Just like going west of town, a little bit of frontage roads they have there, they're state-owned.
Yeah.
the state changed their policy at some point in time when they determined they didn't like cleaning them and they didn't like paying for them.
Gosh,
It's
state
just
pushing
crazy.
off costs and
Dude, no,
responsibilities.
It's just crazy how you
get.
get a portion of the town have it and the other portion doesn't.
Well, I did get that they're not gonna do this until 24, the construction season.
Yes.
So there is time to,
But,
you know, make deals with them or
but when you look at the
show an
plans,
interest how we want this
What-
done, but.
was it eight J-turn intersections that I counted?
It was tough to read the maps
Is
they
that
had on the
what it was?
wall.
I think it
but
was 8.
It looked to be 8 or 9. I think,
In
something
that,
of nature.
from the rest area to, Elks Drive, at 8 J-turns they're gonna put in.
That's total, both sides of that.
My suggestion would be, what's it gonna cost to put the J-turns in? Would they be willing to take the cost of the J-turns and implement that money to frontage?
Well, somebody willing to.
But
Because
it would have to be asked.
ultimately, what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to reduce the total number of entry points onto the highway. Right, and that's the solution that you need to come to, not, oh, we're gonna have the same amount of entry points, it's just they're all gonna be J-turns, because that's where they're going with it, and it's,
Well, and I think the interesting part of it too is in some of the documentation, like that Brian had in his letter, J-turns work to stop, crashes that have high speed and things of that nature, but they actually increase smaller crashes. So rear ends, things like that actually increase over the span. So yeah, you might, and I think the point of making the highway safer obviously is the point. But if you have an intersection now that hasn't had any accidents that have had anyone die there, why would you put in something that could possibly increase the number of crashes? Potentially. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
would it be possible to, and this is as much a question for you, Kevin, as it is anybody else, but would it be possible to figure out who is quarterbacking this on the state's end, and see if we can't get together with them sometime in the next year or so and sit down and talk about what a more comprehensive solution would look like and where the responsibility would come from, how much it would be the county and all of that. Because what I don't want to see happen is I don't want the state to then get to say, well, we fixed your problem by doing something like this. Because as soon as they put that money in there, they'll never help us with it again, I'm sure. And if they make it worse, then they've made it worse.
When do we have to write essentially our comments again? I can't remember was it sometime the end of January or something like that?
It was not long.
We didn't have a great deal of time, and I don't know, they must have a finalized plan date in mind, and then they're, go from there to the engineering cost estimation, and then the construction phase of it, but.
I'm just wondering, because if, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but for some reason, like the 20th of January or someplace in there, I was just wondering, maybe it would make sense if we would invite, who's our state engineer in the area, Wyatt, correct?
Wyatt.
Maybe invite him into our first meeting in January and visit with him and see what his thought process is on how we could, what our concerns are, and then if we don't get anything out of him, then, we have time then still to put a letter together to get it off, and voicing our concerns and saying what we'd like.
But I think, it might be beneficial to play with honey first, with the state and say, hey, we would love to be a partner in this, and potentially, if we can find some cash and partner with you on putting in frontage roads, we'll do that, depending on what that number ends up being, before you immediately try to shoot down the fact that they're trying to help you.
Well, you think about it, from Schmaltz's Welding in the Kansas City's shop, there's 6 accesses to the westbound lane. I mean, my God.
Yeah, there's just too many
Yeah,
access.
That's ludicrous.
Yeah, there's just too many access points.
I mean, it's just too many access there. And the other side of the highway had, trying 3 or something,
Well, that's what I'm thinking, if we could at least visit with Wyatt, maybe we could at least talk to him and say, ask the question of, if they took some of that J-turn money, would you be willing to help us with doing frontage roads, and then maybe we could do something a little bit different? Because he could run it up the flagpole at DOT at least for us.
Wyatt's a reasonable person, but
Yeah,
I
he's
think
usually
we don't wanna bring him in, put him in front of the camera until we have a.
Well,
Face-
maybe
a
Kevin, maybe
face-to-face
Kevin
with him.
could voice our concerns to him
Yeah, I think-
and visit with him.
I mean, Kevin, as much as anybody could, knows what the needs are, right? So I think that would be, I guess that's kind of where I came back to that
Okay, that's
original
reasonable.
point, is this something where we can try to head this off before this gets so far out ahead of us that we can't catch it?
I would say July 1, we better have it headed off, find out what's gonna happen, because after that, it's gonna move forward if we really want. Don't wait a year, don't wait a year.
Well, I think the concerning point of it is that, I mean, obviously there's some input both ways, but what I heard out at High Plains the other night was, they had a previous meeting and it was, this was voiced previously. And they still went ahead with designing it this way. So even if we say, I agree we need to get involved, but at the same point, are they even gonna listen? I hope they do,
We
but,
don't know that unless we try.
yeah, we have to try.
We should see where the city stands on it too. I know they don't have property out there, but I mean.
No, but at some point,
Access to
no,
the
but
city.
they need to be involved too, cause at some point in time down the highway run, if there continues to be,
Annexation.
development, there's gonna be annexation down the run, and those frontage roads are gonna become city frontage roads, so they need to be at the table, at least be talking about what's going to occur as well.
So that whole development could end up moving north.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and at this point, that development is close enough to High Plains equipment that you could just connect the whole frontage road system, right, and have them have a frontage road.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Only
I mean,
makes
that's-
sense, I don't understand.
But again, we just need to get we need to get a feeler out directly to the state. I think it's probably not good enough to sit and wait for this intermediary engineering firm to
Right.
make our decisions for us.
Yeah.
I think go through Wyatt, Wyatt's a
I
very
mean, 'cause this is
understanding
the
person.
latest, greatest thing that's out there in road engineering. First it was the roundabouts that, all of a sudden popped up.
I'm kind of a fan of roundabouts.
You
They
know,
work pretty well. You can't get people to like them, but they work pretty
You go out
well.
every day, yeah, that's what the problem. You go through there once a year, but
Yeah,
how much would that go?
so, and that's kind of their thought process was that everybody hated the idea of roundabouts until we put a few of them in and they got accustomed to them, and then they realize that they're okay and they'll have the same effect with these J-turns, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think as our agriculture equipment continues to evolve, I don't know if it's gonna get any smaller anytime soon. And so you're gonna have to have these wider turn lanes and different things like that to accommodate some of this equipment.
But it's gonna take, coming off of a J-turn, right, so you pull on and you come across and you cut across, and now you're here and you've got a big rig, right?
Yeah,
It's gonna take you so much longer to get this thing turned around, you're cutting across both lanes of traffic, and then you gotta accelerate again.
yeah,
That's probably gonna take you 4 times longer to get up to speed from that situation than it would coming across both lanes and going,
right.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine how that's not working.
I guess, when you said there was 9 on the map?
8, I think, if I counted right, I think it was 8.
And that's both sides of the road then?
Well, they're always in the middle, but yes, so yeah, right.
Basically, the J-turn, it's gonna have a curve to it, so it's gonna collect some more.
Yeah. There are gonna be eight sets of J-turns going east-west, the
All
whole
the
way,
way to the restaurant.
all the way to the rest area, which is unbelievable to me, and that's the solution, right, and that's what they're gonna give us, so. Anyway, Kevin, in order to make sure we're not sitting here all night, would you reach out and, we can be in touch about all of that and see, and if it comes to it, where we need to submit a letter and comment and all that, then I think we approach the city and see if we can, why not pull them in too? Because I'm sure that their concerns are gonna be the same as our concerns. Sound reasonable?
And we should work on maybe drafting some sort of correspondence with, and so we can have that ready at one of our meetings in January to approve as a commission, sign it all. And hopefully that will have a little more impact with DOT and the engineering firm.
Did they set a date that they take input?
I think it was until the 20, I do think it was like they wanted it submitted by the 20th of January, that sounds right.
I don't know, I can't remember the exact date, it was sometime in January.
Again, they said they wanted public comment for like another month, and that was it.
It was basically a month or 6 weeks. I hate to say the exact date, but I remember it being sometime later in January.
I thought maybe they'd give you a April.
It wasn't that long.
Yeah, Christmas program was really good too.
Okay,
Good.
any further discussion, or do we feel pretty good about the short-term marching orders we've given Kevin?
I think we're okay. We got a little bit of time too, so.
Keep your winter busy.
Okay, then if it's all right with everyone, I'd like to move on to discussion on independent contract. Blaine, you wanna give us some insight on that? Or both? Okay.
He had looked at this prior.
Yep, so this was brought to my attention, that there was an independent contractor agreement with the recorder's office. I'll go to bat for Bev here, she asked me to look at the contract. I think the contract's fine, I don't think it has to be bid out by the county because it's coming out of Bev's budget. However, it does need to be approved by the county commission before it can be effective with the law. So if Bev wants to bring that up for approval by the county commission, I think that would solve the issue.
I just have one question for Deb. Katie, she's very interested in doing this?
Yes,
Okay.
now that she's settled in Texas,
That's what my next
Yeah.
question was, she's all right
Yep.
doing this from there?
yes, we've actually got a computer.
No problem?
Nope, I tested to make sure she can get in and it's fine, and we calculated out, and I figure around 37,000 documents in 1 year's time. That would take us back to 1959, so that's gonna be a big jump, to help save us a lot of time with her doing that. With her training, it's not gonna take her quite as long as even me to do it.
So she's actually going to be doing the indexing of the documents for us?
Correct. She'll start at 19, I believe it starts in July 6th of 1979, and she's gonna work backwards.
Okay. Who was previously indexing our documents?
We were doing it in our office, but we haven't had time to do
Okay.
it. We're still
So this is-
validating and,
Okay, so it's something where you've been doing it when you have some time here and there, and the time here and there isn't
So
enough
this
to
is
make
what you
any
had brought
progress.
up before.
Okay.
yeah, in July.
How much do you have in your budget to do this?
The budget right now, we got about $24,000.
Set up for this?
For this, actually, we calculated out, and it's probably gonna be around 13,000 for a year.
For a year?
Yeah, so
Is
it's
this-
about between $1,000 and $1,100 a month.
This is coming out of the Android account, correct?
Endrin, and that's what Endrin's set up for, is
Yeah.
preservation of documents. So this will help get those documents preserved and backed up in the computer the way they should be.
So this is gonna get us online, easy searchability all the way back to the 50s, you said?
Yes, 1959 to begin with.
That
If it
seems,
goes well the first year,
then we
we
can
would
do some
visit
more.
about doing it a second year, depending on what budget do we have in the Endrin. Right now, for Endrin, on average, we've been getting around between $5,500 and $5,700 a year from Endrin.
And,
So-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
This 12,950 that you have on your, you have on 35 cents a document. If she doesn't get 37,000 documents done, it's only,
It'll be less. Yep, we're
Oh,
shooting for 37,000.
shooting, yes.
So, yeah, and the Enderin dollars we spent in the past were simply for the scanning portion of it and then the dump of the documents, but then we never have indexed them because we just haven't had time.
Correct.
Okay. So basically, we've got everything scanned up to this point, we just gotta get it indexed.
Yes,
And we
that
don't
was,
have time to do it locally.
yeah, that was last year's project.
She feels she can get this done in a year?
She feels the 37,000 documents she feels she can get done. After that, she's gonna see how it's doing, so that's around 1,000 documents a day or a month.
That's a lot of documents.
Mhm.
They want us to do it, right?
She does,
The
She
state
said-
wants us to do it.
yes, it's be nice to get it in, because right now we're still relying on the books.
So who's gonna, so you're gonna confirm once this is done that it's correct, or how?
Yes, we'll validate after that.
Yeah, you'll spot check it, no different than you do on when the scans come in.
We'll actually check each document. will validate every single document. They'll be indexed, but then our office will validate them to make sure that information is correct.
I think it's a good idea.
The nice part about her doing it is she knows how we're set up. She knows the subdivisions. We don't have to train anyone special to learn how to do this.
We need a motion to do this?
Yep, and it's gotta be approved by a majority.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second to sign an independent contract for help from Katie Ledoux for indexing of recorder's files going back many decades. So, any further discussion?
How long has this been, between you and Katie, been in the works?
We had talked, I mentioned it to her in September, I believe it was, but she was not settled. She didn't know if she wanted to do it. She was still planning on traveling. So then, that's when I kind of came up with the,
Were there other individuals or companies out there that you were looking at?
in June, I looked at US Imaging, who does it. They were more expensive. They charge per page for indexing. Some of our documents are over 100 pages. So per page got a little bit more expensive, plus then the other counties that I spoke with, the learning curve for them to learn how to do it, index the way that we index, could be quite a while.
I have one more comment. I don't know if it moves the needle or anything, but we specifically, Bev and I had talked about this independent contractor agreement doesn't entitle this person to benefits, no matter how many hours they're working, right? Because they're not an employee of the county, they're just somebody hired to do work for the county. So you don't have to worry about that liability as well.
Yeah, it's no different than when we hire somebody to do a contract to scan the documents for us, come in and scan them and then dump them. I mean, or when we work with Tyler Technologies to put everything for all the things we do, I mean, it's just an independent contractor essentially.
Haven't hired someone to do culvert in.
In reading the contract, it states in here, if not performing the duties, you give them 30 days. You can terminate the
Yeah,
contract.
we've got all kinds of options if it doesn't work right.
You see that, Jeff?
Mhm. Do you have any concerns over the substitution vote, the right of substitution?
I don't. That was something that we had talked about initially. We're not gonna substitute on our end, and if Katie tries to substitute on her end, she has to inform Bev, and then that gives us, again, the opportunity to pull the ripcord if we want.
I guess it doesn't change the fee.
Right.
The fee remains the same regardless of.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the thing, I mean, I don't know why you'd attempt to subcontract it, I mean, at that total value for those amount of documents. I mean, she can't be, the reason she can make money on this is she knows our system and she's been with us before and she can move along fairly quickly on it. I mean, if it was US Imaging or something that didn't know our documents and didn't know our subdivisions and things, that the cost would be far more expensive, I would guess.
You don't see any hiccups at all, Bev?
Pardon me?
You don't see any hiccups at all here?
I don't see any right now, no.
The equipment provided was,
A CPU, that's all that was provided.
okay,
And once that comes, that'll come back to us. That'll actually become one of the public entrance stations. So it's not being wasted.
sure,
It's gonna be reused.
it may be wore out by the time it gets finished.
Well, some of the, I believe Steve told me that the one CPU that we're using for a public station now is quite, it's like 5, 6 years old.
Okay, any further discussions or comments?
Not that they hear what I think, but I was a recorder, and that's a really reasonable rate. 35 cents a document is really reasonable.
Especially when there are multiple pages.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to sign the agreement. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Did you want a roll call on that?
I think it's a good idea.
Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Britt,
I,
Wakefield.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, that's the end of new business, unless I'm missing something. So we'll move on to visitors and delegations. Sean, you wanna talk again?
Yeah.
You sure? Tell us about the weather for 5 minutes.
But you were in a hurry.
Okay, and then we will move on to announcements. Does anyone have any announcements for the good of the order?
I do.
Go ahead.
Pretrial Services from the state of North Dakota is considering placing a pretrial service program in Devil's Lake to serve the lake region. They are going to be coming to the courthouse the first week of the new year. You don't have to be there, but if you'd like to be there, you're certainly welcome. You can follow up with me for details. I think it would be a huge benefit to our community, and it would help alleviate a lot of the strain on law enforcement around here.
Well, let's pretend I don't know anything about anything. Tell me specifically what that means, that they would create a program here for that.
So what it basically is somebody gets a probation officer before they are convicted, before their case goes through. So it's somebody to help monitor them, make sure they're getting the drug testing, living where they say they're living, getting a job, staying productive, not hanging out with the wrong type of people. And the big benefit is that we get bed space back in our jail, because people can be released on supervision, and that creates a big flux of people who don't need to be, let me rephrase, people who we don't think should go out on their own without supervision end up sitting in the jail. But if we can have somebody that can watch them and monitor them, that helps us to free up the bed space. So I think it's a great idea. I'm going to advocate very strongly for it. I think the Law Enforcement Center personnel is also going to advocate for that.
I think it makes perfect sense. If we did get it, do you have a sense for how many parole officers you're talking about? How big of an apparatus that is?
I think it's just one position.
Just one. It's going to be a busy person.
It will be a busy person. I don't know the other communities that are being considered, but I think we have a really strong pitch here. We have all of the surrounding counties, we have the city, we're positioned between two reservations, and so I think that makes it a very attractive location, because we do a lot of joint work between the
Who foots the bill for that?
it's paid for by the legislature.
There'll be any parole person, like?
Yep, they got, I wanna say, $750,000 to fund another office. So they're gonna handle it. It's just where they put it.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, well, can we get them here?
My pitch is, as far as northeast North Dakota goes, I mean, this is it, between Grand Forks and Minot.
Yeah.
So this is a totally logical place to put it, and I think that'd be really helpful for
How
us.
many of these are they setting up around the state?
There's one out of Bismarck, there's one in Minot, and one in Fargo, and I think they have funding to open one more office. So this would be really good for us.
Is there anything we have to do to try to secure that funding?
Nope, it's approved.
It would be good just to show up and show that we have a big interest in it though.
I think it would be great for all of us to be there as a commission.
Right, we could get 5 bed sheets, that would help.
Well, it would be great if you would email us when you're gonna be meeting and stuff like that, so we could be there.
Miss it.
Yeah, I mean, that could be, I'd like to be a part of it at least, so we can show that we're interested.
Yeah, we
The
don't,
more interest we can show, the better off.
Candy cone or something.
Absolutely.
we'd probably all like to be there, so
Absolutely.
that's great to know, and thank you for letting us know about that, Bo. That could be huge for the community.
The meeting might not be at the courthouse though,
Oh, are they talking about
because,
moving it
well,
up?
that's Roundup. So I don't have any meeting right now.
So it might be the law enforcement center then.
Okay, that's fine.
Rob knows all about this, right?
Yeah.
Sheriff's
He
in
emailed
on
me for rooms and we don't have any of those 2 days, so.
Help out there?
I think probation's on board too, so I think you're gonna see a big law enforcement presence come out for this.
Let's roll out the red carpet, man. This could be great for us.
DOC's bringing it up to start it?
I think they're trying to divert as many people out of the system as they can.
Well, that makes sense.
And there's a lot of data on this. If you can get people out of jail, get them successful earlier, less likely they are to commit a crime in the future.
Right.
So that would also alleviate a big strain on us.
Decrease of recidivism is a positive thing for us.
Huge.
Something's gotta be done.
Next thing to follow would be treatment providers in the area, and that would be huge if we could do that. Kind of, the tail follows the dog, you know? If we can get that, then providers might be more interested in coming here.
That sounds very promising.
Yeah, that's great to know. Thank you, Bo. Anything else?
Is it January 4th in the law library?
That's what I thought it was.
At 4 o'clock.
Okay, January 4th.
January 4th at 4 in the law library.
Where at?
Law library, 3rd floor.
But like Candy said, that might change because it's Roundup, but we'll keep you posted.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll really quickly do portfolios in case anybody has anything from that. Start with Adam.
Off the top of my head right now, not a whole lot. I need to visit with Bo. But other than that, I don't have a whole lot of anything to add, I guess, at this point.
Okay, no problem. Mr. Volk?
I guess we touched on Bev's thing, Lisa got the money transferred. We're not meeting as far as the access until the end of January. Met with the committee out at Peterson Arena. They're moving on of putting some sketches together with Gleason's as part of the building project. And other than that,
Okay. Commissioner Frith?
Well. Everything's fine with the tax department and the sheriff's department. Steve was a little short-staffed and overwhelmed with some transfers that he had to come up with a couple days to Watford City. We were over our bed capacity at the law enforcement center, so Watford City was the closest facility that we found, and we needed nine there. So, and that's a long trip. So, but he got it all worked out, and everything was good, and I think things are going to move forward, bringing some people back. So, getting some people out and.
I've got a request in to move up to 65, so,
Yeah.
and wait 90 days, 3 months, and then we go to maybe 80. We'll get to 65 under the hill.
As long as we move in the right direction.
And then parole, we want just that's a great idea if it's gonna work. You're the right person to be a parole officer.
Airport, we met last week and moving ahead with expansion plans for the terminal. Going from about a 5,500 square foot, 6,000 square foot terminal to almost 12,000 terminal. And then we're moving the fire protection area to a bigger facility, doubling that capacity, moving a lot of the managerial office support staff over into where that, what they call the ARF building next door to the terminal over in there. Well, one of the things that the terminal will have will be better baggage handling, some, better handling for people departing planes after they go through the security checkpoints. They'll have lavatories and vending machines and drinking fountains where that was something that was limited before, so if you
We'll have a
got
cocktail
through,
bar in there in no time.
got through security and all of a sudden your plane was delayed, your departure was delayed, you went thirsty,
You couldn't even buy some chips and a drink, right?
right, so.
That's great.
And so, and all that's going through, through the ARPA funds that the airport, received. And so, things will be hopping out there. Chamber met yesterday and, we had a very lengthy meeting, but it was a lot of good discussion on a lot of things that are happening within our community, so.
Very good. Commissioner Brown?
I'll talk about the jail, senior jail did meet this month. Short and sweet, I'm done.
Very good. The only thing I'll make mention of is we had the county's ARPA committee met, and we sort of set up some of the parameters and vision of kind of where we think we're going to go as a committee. And then because we're in the middle of the holiday season, we adjourned until the first week of February. Is that right? Second week of February? First, one of those two, right around the first, second week of February. Hopefully we've got more guidance from the federal government at that point, and if not, we'll plow ahead anyway. So that's all I have. Is there anything else for the good of the order? We're adjourned.